Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, these are the results of the 2024 presidential election. I haven't filled in the names because I don't think that's very important to the video, seeing as this is more a representation of the electoral map. Once Trump is no longer the nominee, and if you think that Trump's going to be the nominee in 2028, if the bridge tell you in Brooklyn, but Donald Trump won in quite a resounding victory. People have fought over the terminology. Was it a mandate? Was it a landslide? I really don't think that matters. Like, at the end of the day, this election was expected to be close, was forecast to be close. People thought that Kamala Harris would win in a landslide. People thought that Trump would win in a landslide, but the majority of people thought it would be close. I was actually quite accurate in this election. I got Michigan wrong and Nevada kind of. For Senate, I got 53 Republicans, so I was spot on. And for the House, I think I overestimated the GOP by like one. But for the most part, the deviation from that was like two or three states. People thought that I thought would go to Trump. People thought went to Harris. And in defiance of most expectations, Trump won every swing state. The narrowest margin was point 0.9. The most lopsided margin for a swing state was Arizona at R plus 5.5, but that wasn't where it ended. You saw states that weren't considered the conventional seven swing states for the presidency, like New Hampshire, Minnesota, be closer than Arizona. But you saw one state that not many people thought would be competitive, that really has not been that competitive throughout recent American history. Um, Even in the best years for the Republicans, and you saw that state be New Jersey. Now, New Jersey shocked virtually everyone when the state was under 6%. When the state was called and Trump just kept gaining. Uh, there was a serious question whether this state would be closer than Arizona. Now, narrowly so, it wasn't. Had Trump done 0.2% better nationwide, uh, the state would have been closer than Arizona. But still, this was a Biden plus 14 state. Arizona was a Biden plus zero point 0.3 state. New Jersey, besides for New York, was the one state that trended the reddest, or shifted the reddest, trended the reddest, however you want to quantify it. This state came out of nowhere. Before the election, during the campaign, there was talk about New York, and New York really didn't disappoint the GOP. Obviously, you didn't win New York; it was a Biden plus 23 state, but you still did relatively well. Um, you did incredible in the city, which we will to some extent see in the mayoral election in 2025. How that changes. Plus, you have some county executive elections like Nassau, Rensselaer. Rockland, Westchester, if I'm not mistaken, coming up in 2025. So we'll be able to see some of these New York trends. But for the most part, due to Trump's investment in the state, it, not too much investment, but more than the average Republican, the state shifted Republican off a cliff. Like there's shifts of 20 points in the city, which is insane. But not just that, the suburbs in Long Island and even places like Westchester and Rockland, which weren't expected to shift that Republican, ended up shifting pretty Republican. The rural areas of upstate and some of these suburban areas like Schenectady, Montgomery, Saratoga, even parts of Erie, Monroe, Onondaga, most of upstate is at least somewhat suburban. They really didn't shift that Republican. Trump flipped Clinton County, but near misses like Essex, Broome, Rensselaer, Dutchess, Saratoga, which voted for Zeldin, who in 2022 ran on a more suburban coalition, ended up voting for Kamala Harris. That's kind of expected since, Zeldin got the state within 6. Trump got it within 13, if I'm not mistaken. But still, Trump's coalition was mostly focused at the city. And it was focused around New York City to a point where we really didn't expect before the election. Now, you saw this kind of bleed over to Connecticut, Bridgeport, and Western Connecticut planning region. This panhandle of Connecticut, very intimately intertwined with New York City, shifted quite Republican. But where we really didn't expect it was New Jersey. In hindsight, it was kind of stupid to think that the trends in New York would just stop at the border. There was some okay polling. There's some okay polling for Trump in New Jersey before Biden dropped out, but once Biden dropped out, the state was written off. But even in spite of that, New Jersey was nearly closer than Arizona, and Trump was able to flip quite a few counties. One, two, three, four. Passaic, or actually five, including Gloucester. Passaic really came out of nowhere. Passaic was like a Biden plus 20 county or so. Ended up flipping to Trump. 20-point swing. That's insane to think about. It wasn't just Passaic, though Passaic was the pinnacle of it. Obviously, you had Hudson, Bergen, Essex, Union, most of northern New Jersey, on the Hudson River, bordering New York. This area is mainly commuter. Like, you think, oh, Newark, everyone goes to Newark. No, for the most part, it's an extension of New York City. Even as far as Morris and some of these outer suburban counties, like these people commute to New York City, and they're like I said with the Panhandle of Connecticut, they're intimately intertwined with New York City. Like they're in some respects members of New York State. They are affected by the decisions of New York State, and Kathy Hochul not exactly being the best governor did enrage them quite a bit. Um, a lot of the reason for this blowback against Democrats in northern New Jersey was for the same reason there was blowback in New York City. The southern New York area is just trending Republican. One, because a lot of minorities, especially Asians, are shifting heavily Republican, and two, because the city really isn't that well run. Um, and you see that bleeding over to places where, even though these people aren't under the jurisdiction of Eric Adams or Kathy Hochul or anyone in the city, they still go to the city quite a bit. And New Jersey, it's an important way to judge these trends because part of the reason why Trump won the popular vote was this. Um, you can see this. They don't have it anymore, but there's a map of where Kamala Harris lost votes from 2020, where Trump gained votes. Um, there's two areas that really stick out. Obviously, you got Los Angeles. This is a massive, actually the biggest county in the country. Kamala Harris lost quite a few votes here because it shifted 11 points Republican. But where you also see it is around New York, and you can see a line from New York City basically down to the bottom of the page, um, showing where Kamala Harris lost votes. So not winning New York City, but getting New York City closer is important. One, for quite a few House races. And I'm counting New York City as the New York City metropolitan area. Um, Obviously, you got like your New York third and New York fourth. New York third actually includes a tiny bit of Queens, so if you can do better there, it's good. But New York fourth, these are pretty close. New York sixth, actually, even though Grace Meng won by 23%, this was a Harris plus six district. Once she retires, is going to be much more Republican. You also got Lawler's district, which is important. New York's 19th, not really New York metropolitan area. But you also have some New Jersey seats, which New York seven or New Jersey seventh, kind of expected to be close. Keene slightly overperformed expectations. Sue Altman was not a good candidate, um, but still he did overperform expectations. This district is a weird one because it's an amalgamation of a lot of these suburban areas in Western New Jersey and then just a tiny sliver of Union County. It's gerrymandered like most of New Jersey's congressional districts. This used to be a Trump district. Had this been a Trump 2016 and narrowly Biden 2020 district, it would have flipped the cycle. But it was drawn to be like a Biden plus 14 district, which is wonderful. How Republicans let that happen. But this was expected to be the lone competitive district in New Jersey, but we had actually a few more. One, Trump got District 5, and not really. I'm not sure about District 11 or District 3. These were closer than expected, but District 5 was within two. Josh Gottheimer is a pretty big overperformer, so he ended up doing pretty well. We'll be talking about him shortly, but he actually ended up flipping this district, District 9, which this came out of nowhere. Like Nellie Powell, when she won the primary, or I don't even think she won the primary. Bill Pascrell died. And if I'm not mistaken, there wasn't even a primary, but she was considered a lock for the seat. She wasn't even considered a lock for the seat because the seat wasn't considered. Now, that was partially human error. The seat was only D plus 11 um, in 2022. And I'd say if you want to be famous, go around searching for seats like this for 2026. If you can find a seat that, is much narrower than expected and kind of flew under the radar, you might be as lucky as the very few people who thought that this district could be potentially competitive. But at the same time as Nellie Powell winning the seat by less than five, Trump ended up winning the seat, which is insane. This includes parts of Passaic and Bergen, which, in case you didn't see, um, two of Trump's best areas, and especially includes some minority heavy, like Republican trending minority heavy areas, especially of Bergen County. So Trump was able to win the Bergen County portion of this district by a lot, which ended up winning him the district at large. But like Hudson, Bergen, Passaic, these are the most Republican trending areas of New York or New Jersey, which are all put in one district. Now, New Jersey, we saw this, and it's hard to confirm trends. Like there were signs of New Jersey potentially being competitive this cycle. Obviously, the 2021 gubernatorial race, once again, this was similar. This was overlooked. People thought it would be like D plus 8, D plus 9. Phil Murphy's relatively popular. It's a pretty solidly Democrat state. He'll underperform, but polling showed him up by quite a bit. And he ended up winning by 3.2%, nearly narrower than Virginia gubernatorial on the same ballot, where Glenn Youngkin won, though that was kind of expected at the end. It was an upset to someone you said, like if you went to someone in September and said Glenn Youngkin would win, that'd be an upset. But by the time Virginia governor came around, it was considered a toss-up with Youngkin perhaps having the narrow edge. But this came out of nowhere. Phil Murphy wasn't the most unpopular. His approval rating is fine as of now, but Jack Ciattarelli ran a phenomenal campaign, even with the shitty hand he was dealt in that the Republicans, um, the RGA just didn't fund him. Like he had nothing, and still he did pretty well. There's a lot of suburban backlash to Phil Murphy and to Democrats. You can cross-reference these. First of all, Ciattarelli did better, but you see a much more suburban-heavy coalition for Ciattarelli, even in the South state. People think that, and I will say, I myself before the election thought this to some extent, but people think the South state is like white working class. It isn't. It's somewhat white working class, but a lot of it is urban and suburban. And because of that, Jack Ciattarelli did much better than Trump in these three counties which voted for Biden, even in places like Monmouth, which Trump improved a lot in over 2020. Jack Ciattarelli did still do better there. You can see Passaic didn't end up voting for Ciattarelli. That you really can't overstate how much an upset that voting for Trump was. Um, like that looks like a tabulation error. If you want anything that's similar to like Miami-Dade when it dropped in 2020, where like people were like, "What the fuck? Why is it within 10?" It's Passaic County. You also saw Bergen County be a lot closer this time around. Most of the northeast of New Jersey was closer in 2024 than in 20. But for the most part, had we been paying attention, we really should have seen this. This was the warning sign. In 2022, it was confirmation. 2023, Republicans did suffer setback in New Jersey. I think, or they ended up losing one state Senate seat, District 3, where Ed Durr defeated the state Senate president out of nowhere. That was a massive upset at the time, but people just kind of forget about it now. The state assembly, Republicans did lose a few seats here and there in the state assembly. So that kind of masked how big the New Jersey shift was going to be in 2024. But we have an opportunity to look at that again in 2025. We're going to have a pretty, to some extent, competitive gubernatorial election happening in 2025. We don't exactly know who's ahead now. I will say Democrats are probably favored for it. It's within the realm of possibility for Republicans to pull off an upset. Like, if the state is trending Republican enough, like an 8-point shift over 4 years, like you could potentially, if you see 2025 be a less blue than expected environment, Republicans run a good campaign, Democrats not run a good campaign, which kind of depends on who the nominee is. And trends accelerate. You could potentially see the state flip Republican. I wouldn't say Republicans are favored now, but it's close. But we really don't know because you have 6 Democrat candidates running in the primary. They're virtually even. We have 12 polls for the primary, but out of those 12 polls, 11 of them are Democrat internals, and one of them was a nonpartisan poll. But that poll was from January. We have no idea how the Democratic primary is going. And we have quite a few candidates who could potentially be the Democratic nominee. Gottheimer, who we mentioned, Mickey Sherrill out of District 11, you have the mayor of New York, the mayor of New York. I'm retarded. The mayor of Newark, the mayor of Jersey City. You have Steve Sweeney, who we mentioned, the former New Jersey State Senate president. You have a bunch of candidates, and we only have internals. And those internals, they show the candidate whose internal it is ahead of the pack, besides for Cheryl, who is ahead in most of these polls, but not ahead by too much. But they show the rest of the field relatively competitive. This is a competitive primary, and especially since we've had no nonpartisan polling, we don't know how it's going, which is why I present an opportunity, my first sponsored video by myself. This. I, alongside Sammy Talks Politics, you might know, and SoCal Strategies, will be conducting, hopefully, a New Jersey poll. I'm not sure exactly what this will include. I can't promise that it's going to include everything. It really depends on how many donations we get, um, and how we can change the price tag. But we're going to be pulling the Democrat primary. I assume probably we'd be pulling the general election. The Republican primary seems somewhat consolidated. Around Jackson Ray, but even so, the Republican primary as well is completely unpolled. We have like 2 polls with 90% undecided out of the Republican primary. So this is an opportunity to help bring transparency to New Jersey politics and to politics across the globe. It's not that important, but I I don't like to be asking for money like this. It it's it's annoying to like it's kind of begging for money. Um, but this poll is expensive. I'll be straight up with you. Like, it's going to cost a lot because it's very hard to conduct polls like this if you're not an established polling firm. But what me and Sammy Talks Politics and SoCal are hoping to do is to get enough money for this poll to make it so that we can have some idea of how this race is going, and also at the same time to help break into that polling industry, because the polling industry is like a cabal of these colleges that just they spend so much money on these polls, which are all set to feed the national narrative. Exactly, like SoCal. I've doubted him before, but he's a damn good pollster. We saw that with the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. We saw that with the presidential election. We saw that with all these elections across the board. He's like the 10th rated pollster in America or something like that. Because all these other pollsters, they get millions of dollars funded to them, and they all toe the line and they all conform to the narrative. This one will not conform to the narrative. And I will say, maybe it gives us a result we don't like, but I'm not going to just not release it. If it shows Republicans down or if it shows a candidate who I don't support getting the nomination ahead in the polls. I can't do that. SoCal wouldn't let me squash it if I wanted to, and I won't do that because there's a value to having nonpartisan polling and to having polling that its only goal is to nail this result, not to get itself more funding, not to increase the power of whatever university um, is backing it. It's just to try and nail the margin, to try and provide as much information to people as possible as to how this election is going. So that's part of the reason why I made this video, because it's an underpolled state, and that's exactly what happened in 2021. We had the same polls that all wanted to say Phil Murphy's going to win by 9 when it was complete bullshit. Here, we had almost no polling in New Jersey, and all the polling was like, oh, yes, Kamala Harris is going to win in a landslide. I'm sure a lot of these polling companies, like what they do is they just completely throw out the results. that don't conform to the narrative. But if you want polling that won't conform to the narrative, if you want polling that will tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, this fundraiser is for you. And I'm not asking for $100, $200 donations. That's for me. That's for me. I will be footing a lot of this cost. So by watching this video, you're helping support the poll. But I'm just asking for like $5. If you donate $5 from the bottom of my heart, thank you. $3 even. Like, hell, $1 would help us get a lot closer to meeting our goal. If you think, oh, you're only 5%, this poll was launched earlier today, or the poll fundraiser was launched earlier today. So it's actually quite good that we've got 5% of our goal so far. But if you want to help support me, Sammy Talks Politics SoCal, and the new polling industry, breaking into this industry that really isn't kind to people who want to poll nonpartisanly without the backing of these millionaire universities behind them. Thank you. Your support is greatly appreciated, but you don't have to. In fact, subscribing can help us get closer to our goal. This isn't like a donate now or else it's not going to happen. You can donate whenever you feel like. We're going to be doing this for a little bit more than like 2 days. I'm serious about this. I want to make this a reality. Um, since you can see with this map, the endorsements, like it's all over the place, and we really don't know um, how this primary is going to go. We have an idea. I'd say Cheryl is favored. I don't even know if I should be saying that because of sponsoring this, but I want to see what's happening. And I think a lot of people could benefit from having a nonpartisan look into this race. So, my apologies if you don't like how half this video is an ad. The topic was unrelated to this. I was going to do a state, and I thought, oh, New Jersey. Oh, wait, that's a good idea. But ignore how Andy Bashir is organizing this fundraiser. An old email of mine. But thank you. Subscribing helps a lot. Um, I was going to go to this map and be like, oh, if New Jersey flips, then you have a bunch of paths. But I feel like I've done that before. This is more than just like, oh, look, Republicans can win through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Nevada. I mean, you can kind of infer that, but this is a big moment. If we're able to meet this fundraising goal, which sounds like a lot, but if everyone watching this video chipped in $1, we'd hit it. We did it quite easily. If every subscriber I had chipped in 50 cents, we'd hit it right now, like that. So, if you want to support this, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Even if you're not going to support it, just subscribing or sharing with your friends or anyone who's interested in this can help out a lot. Thank you so much. Subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends. Godspeed. Tester's done.